Okay, so we're holding in the Maamar Dibor Matchil Erdon Vayeira. We started yesterday. We spoke about the grammatical differences in the pasuk itself. It starts off feminine, tza'akoso, her cry, and then it goes haba, which is also feminine, and then the word ve'osu, not only that it's masculine and feminine, but ve'osu is plural. Tza'akoso and haba is singular. And that was the first question that we had about the grammatical differences. And number two is Ma'u Erdonu Vayeira lo mishamayim ibitavai. What is the meaning? Hashem has to come down to see. He sees everything from heaven. It says in Tehillim chapter 33, Mishamayim hibitavai, Hashem looks from the heavens. So what does it mean to go down? We started explaining that tza'akoso is the cry that comes from below, is the cry of the attribute of judgment, which is connected with the attribute of kingship. It's called deen, judgment, but it's a weaker judgment. So in other words, it's not necessarily a judgment to pay the person who did something exactly what he deserves, is mainly to keep peace, to keep a normal society. Midas adin, the attribute of judgment, try to keep everything in order. And we learned, Akitza'akoso habo, the pasuk says, Akitza'akoso habo, it's referring to the attribute of Malchus. We learned that everything that we do during the day is being elevated to the higher worlds, and it comes back in the morning. A new energy comes back in the morning. So we'll start Perek Beis, chapter 2. First, we have to preface with the common language, the common verbiage. In the words of Chazal, Golui ve'adua lifnei mi she'omar v'oy olam. This was said in many places in the Talmud, in Yeruvin, Kiddushin, Chulin, Sanhedrin, many places in the Talmud. This language, which means Golui ve'adua, it's revealed and it's known. Revealed and it's known to whom? To the one who said, and the world came into being. Thank to God. Why did they say it in such a way, Golui ve'adua, revealed and known? You could have said it's known to the one who created the world, the one who said and created the world. It says the philosophers tried to figure out the concept of Hashgacha Pratis, of divine providence, that Hashem is watching every detail that happens in the whole creation, not just watching, observing it, enabling it. Person doesn't move his finger down here in this world unless it was decided already upstairs. Even moving your finger. This was also said in the Gemara in Chulin and the Zohar. The Kosher, the philosophers had a difficulty, had a challenge. Since Hashem is one and unique, Echod Oemes, in Cain, If so, Eichi Tochen Idias Hashem Yisborach HaProtim VeHashgoch HaProtis Lo Daito Al Inyonim Rabim Sharei Ze B'chinas Ribui. We know Hashem is one. Now, when there's so many details, how can he wrap his mind around all these details of all the creations, of everything that is happening in creation? There's so many things that are happening.
How it's possible?
So therefore, the philosophers held that Hashem doesn't know everything that happens.
Does it?
That was their conclusion.
Oh.
The conclusion of the philosophers is that Hashem doesn't know everything that happens in the world in a specific way, and is not dealing with all the details in a direct way. So rather, he runs the world through intermediaries, through many forces, other forces that he runs the world. For example, the angels and the stars and so on. That's how he runs the show. Rabbi responded to the philosophers. They just answered, it's known and it's revealed before the one who said, and the world came into being. So the Rebbe wants to tell us, the Alter Rebbe is teaching us that really the answer to the philosophers is hidden in these words, Golui ve'edua, revealed and known. They said that Hashem doesn't know. Rabbi said it's revealed and it's known. She'en yediyosu yisborach kedim yediyas odom is a dover shedai tesig hadover u'mitchil lo yedo. So when it comes to a human being, we suddenly understand something that we never understood before, or we didn't know about a concept before, and now we are introduced to a new concept. That's called the idea, acknowledgement, understanding when it comes to a human being. I didn't know it, but now I know it. Another distinction between our understanding and the understanding of God, that we have to vest our intellectual capabilities in that subject. We have to delve into the subject to understand it. So we are occupied with it. Before knowing this subject, he didn't have that idea. Obviously, he didn't have that knowledge. So when someone introduced a new idea to your head, there is a change, there is excitement, there is spalus. So there's an added knowledge now that you didn't have before. So, summarizing this concept, when it comes to our understanding, our grasping, there's two details. All these understandings, all these wisdoms were outside of us. Before we knew it, it was not in our brain, it was not in our intellect. By the idea, by knowing it now, there's a change. We created a change. The beginning, he didn't know it, now he knows it. And that's number one. And number two, the way that a person knows something, that he has to invest his mind into it. He has to delve into the subject, and only then he can understand it. Now that's by human beings. When it comes to Hashem, to God, the way Hashem knows all the worlds and all the details that are involved in this world, it's not that his mind is garbed and is grasping it El al derech golui ve'yadua, meaning it's all revealed, it's all open to him. Sha'akol golui ve'yadua lefon esbach mimela. Everything is known to him by default. It's not that something was not known and now it's known to him. The new details that are developing in the world all the time. It's already known to him. It's already revealed to him. There's no surprises. It's not a new knowledge. He doesn't have to vest himself and to delve into the subject in order to know it. It's already revealed and it's known to him. So he doesn't have to do anything special outside of the ordinary to get, to know the subject. I'm going to put any effort or anything into it. He knows it already. Since it's revealed and known to him, the whole question, the whole debate of the philosopher doesn't even exist from the perspective of the rabbis. Because it's all revealed to him. So I'm not adding anything new. By human beings, we have to add something new. And you have to delve into the subject. When it comes to godliness, when it comes to Hashem, he doesn't have to go into he doesn't have to learn anything new. It's there already for him. It's all open for him. It's all revealed. It's all revealed and known to him. So, the fact that there's many, many details does not make it more complicated or harder for him to know. It's part of him. So, it's called Yedias Atzmi. Every person has billions and billions of neurons and nerves in the body. If God forbid, how do you know that something is wrong in the body? When you feel it. If you don't feel your tooth, it's a good sign. It means that your teeth are good. But if you feel your teeth, that means maybe you have a cavity. Yeah. So, but why do you feel it? There's so many other nerves in the body that you should you say there's billions and billions of nerves. Why do I feel that specific one? How do I feel it? I feel it because it's part of me. So if you have an ingrown toenail, your brain feels it because it's part of your body. Since creation is all part of God, it's goloi verdua. It's not that it's added knowledge. I had to go to a school, somebody to teach me that the ingrown nail is painful. It's already there. It's part of me, even though there are so many details. But for God, it's all part of him. So therefore it's all revealed and known, and therefore the question of the philosopher doesn't even become a question. V'neksiv shivo eile eina avaye heima mesheitetim b'chol haaretz. Uksiv ki avaye eino mesheitetes b'chol haaretz. There's a pasuk in Zechariah. It says there's Shiva Eile, 7 eyes, Meshoitetim, they are traveling in the earth, Uksiv ki avaya eino meshoitet b'chol haaretz. In Divrei Hayomim it says that Hashem's eyes are traveling in the earth. It's a saying, a pasuk in Zechariah and Divrei Hayomim. So it's many times in the Torah it says Yad Hashem, the hand of God, the eyes of God, the ears of God, and similarly there's this language that we see many times. The Rambam writes that all these expressions, it's only for us to to understand. Dibra Torah Koloshem Bnei Adam. The Torah spoke in our language, and all these nicknames, all these names and mishalim, We're in the language of Bnei Adam. V'yesh le'ovin, the inyan meshoitetim meshoitetois, the inyan of meshoitetim. What does it mean? They're traveling, they're scattering around, they're looking, meaning they are in motion, they are constantly searching. Mash meshenim shachliru isulayan adovar al-yedei riyazu. So from what is the word meshoitetim is implying that the eyes of God are in the earth to see what is happening.
What is the translation of meshotetim?
Someone is just strolling around, is walking around to see. Meshotet is someone that travels, it looks. Yeah? Not for a specific purpose. They're just looking. והרי זה כמו בחינת הסלבשות בדבר הנראה והידוע. So similarly, it's Islamshus. What did we say before? That Hashem doesn't have to vest itself in the world in order to find out what is happening. But this statement in Zechariah seemingly that Hashem is looking, that Hashem is spending, so to speak, spending time to look around to see what is going on. It's the opposite of what we just learned, that everything is open, it's all revealed to him, and he doesn't have to vest himself in that subject. In order to answer that, we know the 10 manifestations of God, the 10 godly powers that were emanated from Hashem, from God, to run the world. It's explained in Kabbalah and Chassidut that they are comprised of lights and vessels. The light of the sphere, the light of that manifestation is the energy of it. And the godly light within that sephira. And the kli, the vessel, is the definition of that sephira. If I say it's chokhmah, so the light is vested in a kli, in a vessel of chokhmah. So we always have oros and kelim, lights and vessels. For example, in a way of analogy, by us we also have oir and kli, by our nefesh adam. For example, the intellect, the power of intellect, and the physical brain is a vessel. The brain is a vessel for wisdom. There's koyach hasechel, there is power of intellect that is vested in the brain. Since that koyach hasechel, the power of intellect, of the nefesh, is so spiritual, it's not possible that it's going to affect the world without being vested in that physical object that limits it. You have to have this concept of oil, light that goes into a vessel. And similarly above, when it comes to the lights and vessels of 10 spheres, the supernal spheres, for example, the attribute of chesed is comprised of a kli, of a vessel, and that's defined, unique definition of that sephira. What is the definition of chesed? Is to give. And the light is the revelation and the vitality, godly vitality that is vested in this vessel. And through this vessel, it's working, it's serving through the vessel. Because the godly light itself cannot be defined in any way. The only thing that defines the godly light is the kli itself, is the vessel itself. Why? Because Hashem himself, the Almighty, is Ein Sof, is infinite. And his light is infinite. And therefore, he by himself, there's no limitation to him. Chesed, Hashem is chesed. And he doesn't have a limitation of saying, oh, he's chesed, he's kind, he's good. The kli, that's the job of the kli, of the vessel, to limit the light and to define it. To say, oh, now godly light is vested in chesed, so therefore there's expressions of chesed, the expressions of kindness. Light is vested in gevurah, there's expressions of gevurah, of severity.
He's invested in everything.
Right?
So, all, what looks like chesed to us is something else to somebody else. I mean,
we're not speaking about our perspective. Saying God is, for
Hashem
Hashem to bestow chesed, he has to vest himself in a vessel of chesed. He wants to give over a gevurah, he has to vest itself in the kli of gevurah. So godly light is vesting itself in the vessel. The light itself is not limited. That's the point that he's trying to say. The light itself is not limited. The kli is what limits the light and define it. It is limited. So chesed is limited to give chesed, and gevurah is limited to give gevurah. Ki bechinas chesed ugevurah zeu bechinas kli. A very specific. They have a very specific gather, very specific definition that are limiting the light and the godly energy in such a way, that specific way, not something else. אבל האור הוא האור מאין סוף ברוך הוא, דלאו מכל עינון מידס יהיו כלל. But for the light itself is a ray from Hashem, from the Ein Sof, and is not connected with the midas whatsoever. The essence of the light is way higher than these vessels. Because if I would say that Hashem is chesed, I'm limiting him to say that he is chesed and he's not gevurah. If I say he's gevurah, and I'm limiting his capability, saying he's gevurah. So the same way that the infinite light of God has no limitations, the extension of Ein Sof has no limitation. The ray of Ein Sof has no limitation. So what is the difference between Ein Sof itself and the light that is extending from the Ein Sof? The ray that comes out of the Ein Sof. רק שהאור מסלבש בהכלי.
That's limited, I think.
The light is vested in the vessel, and the light that goes into the vessel is very contracted light. Therefore, he's able to vest itself in the vessel. If it was a very strong light, it wouldn't be able to contain itself in a vessel. So it's true that this light is extension of Ein Sof. And the same way that Ein Sof, the infinite light of God, it's called Ein Sof because it's infinite. And the light that emanates from it is also Ein Sof and has no limitations whatsoever. But Sof called Sof, but at the end of the day, the end of it, it's light. And this light is just a ray. And it's not compared at all to the Ein Sof itself. In other words, it's only extension of the Ein Sof, and it cannot be compared to the Ein Sof at all. Even though it has similar characteristics of Ein Sof, that when it's being emanated from the Ein Sof, it's emanated infinitely, the same way that Ein Sof is infinite, so what comes out of it is infinite. But it cannot be compared to the Ein Sof at all, because it's only a ray from the Ein Sof.
And gets to a place that it's limited. Like the brain, like the
Right.
world, like the globe.
It's limiting its action. By investing itself in chesed, for example, it's limiting its action to chesed. But it's only a ray from the Ein Sof. It's not the Ein Sof itself. שהוא חסד וגבורה, שהוא שאר המידות שנקראים מבחינת כלים, שהם מגבילים את האור. So the kelim, the vessels, are limiting the light and are defining it. Oh, this is what it is now. Everything goes through this room, is chesed. Everything goes through that room is gevurah. So the light itself is pashut, meaning it has no definition whatsoever. Right? Simple. By being vested in the kli of chesed, for example, now there's acts of chesed being done. For example, the neshama is also higher than any kind of definition. By the neshama being vested in the limbs of the body, so the body is limiting the light of the neshama to act in accordance with the vessel, in accordance with the body, limited to the body. For example, the light of the neshama that is vested in the eye, in our eyes, since we have the kli, we have the vessel of the eye, now it has its limitation to be able to see only. You can't hear with your eyes, you can only see with your eyes. Right? Limited to that. Similarly, it goes with the walking and so on. So through the 10 manifestations, God is creating or bringing into life all these created beings that are Baalei Gvul, that are limited. Leisisavus Michol veGavriel, creating the famous angels, Michol, angel of Chesed, Gavriel, the angel of Gevurah. Machne Michol mekablim b'chinas Chesed, the camp of Michol, those that are with Michol are receiving from Chesed. VeGavriel b'chinas Gevurah, Zohar Chelek Gimel explains the whole thing. She'eh efshar lisamshoch hazu me'ir atzman. You cannot have amshocha directly from the light itself, because the light itself, the Ein Sof itself, does not have all these gedolim, doesn't have any definitions of chesed or gevurah. Ki im al yedei hakelim. So all these limitations are being done through the vessels, through the kli.
So everything that comes out from Hashem becomes limited, so we can understand.
We'll see, there are levels that don't go through the kelim. So it brings an analogy to this, that it's impossible to have created beings that are limited only through the light of God descending itself into vessels. First has to go into limiting vessels. For example, the body of man by himself, he does not have the power to do anything. It's dead meat, without any chayus, without any vitality in it. The neshama is bestowing chayus, life, to the body, and the guf, the body, can do many things, right? Because of the neshama. For example, to see, to hear, to walk. So we find that by us doing anything is always the partnership between body and soul. The neshama gives the body the power and the ability to do things, and the body is limiting it to that specific act. And the example that the Alter Rebbe brings from the mitzvah of charity. The body is unable to give tzedakah to the poor because it's meat, it's flesh, without anything, without any life in it. But the neshama is the one that wants to give tzedakah. The neshama needs the help of the body, that your hand will pick up, your hand will go into the pocket, will take the money and give it to the poor. So only through the physical capabilities of the body, it's enabling the neshama to feed the poor. So similarly, with the 10 sefirot, with the 10 manifestations, You cannot have the creations of limited beings and defined beings like the angel Michael and the angel Gabriel, which is a limited angel, because his definition is a chesed, the angel of chesed. So it cannot be created without the limiting vessels. Now, how all of that is connected to Erdon or Vayeira, that the Hashem says, I'm going to come down and see what are the people of Sodom are doing. We'll be able to see soon. So, Perek Daled, we're holding the 4th chapter. There are 2 levels in Yedias Hashem, in knowing Hashem. There is one Yediyah, there is one acknowledgement that comes through vestment in vessels, and one Yediyah that comes through light that is vested in vessels. So there are 2 Yediyahs, two levels in Yediyas Hashem. There is a Yediyah that comes through that it's vested in Kli, in a vessel. And there is another Yediyah that comes through the light being vested in vessels. And we'll see what it means. והנה כמו כן, על ידי הכלים ו10 ספירוס, הוא גם כן בחינס הלא עשה זכוס וחויב של כל ניבו. Through the kelim of the 10 spheres, we have an elevation of zchus, of meritorious acts, and the choiva, and all is negative things that occurred, that are being elevated for review. It's going upstairs for a review. We learn every day, the end of the day or the beginning of the day, everything that was done before is being elevated upstairs. Shlomo HaMelech says, "Ichlu dodim u'shitu ra'im," right? Meaning that everything that they're eating upstairs, it's from what we are doing. So if you are elevating good things, then they have ichlu dodim, they are eating. But if not, so it really depends on what we do. But regardless of what we do, whether it's chut or whether it's chovah, whether it's positive things or negative things, it's being elevated upstairs. So כשם שהאור Ein Sof ברוך הוא יורד דרך הכלים של 10 ספירות לגדר הגבול, when it comes to the Ein Sof, it comes through the vessels of the 10 sfirot to a place of limitations, to create limited beings and very defined beings, like we said about Michael and Gabriel, that are limited to chesed or gevura. Similarly, when it comes to the kelim, to the vessels of the 10 sefirot, the zchut, the good things, the meritorious things, are ascending on high. Ve'achov, and the dead, the negative things, are also ascending. They are going back to the Ein Sof, to the infinite light of God. Meaning to say that the same way that create this bond, this connection between the infinite and the finite, the bli gvul and the gvul, what happens because of it? Light goes into a vessel. There is now a very limited concept. There is a limited vessel. So similarly, there is a connection between the gvul and the bli gvul, the finite that is meeting the infinite. Usually the infinite is meeting the finite, meaning the bli gvul is going into a vessel that is limiting, into a limiting vessel. But there is also the other way around, the milamata lamala, the below that goes up, meaning the finite is now meeting the infinite. That's your actions. Our actions are finite, but at the end of the day they are ascending on high to the infinite, to the Ein Sof, going back there.
So these actions turn to be
You'll see, כך יציר עשה קשר בין הגבול שהנברואים לבין גבול של הבורא, אז מצאו זה הכלים המקבילים. So how can we make this connection? It's all being done through the vessels that are limiting. What did you do? Zchut is one kelim for zchut, for meritorious things. So it goes back to that vessel, and through the vessel it goes up on high. And then if, God forbid, chovah, obligations and negative things that went on high, they go through that vessel, through that channel. So one time it's from above down, and one time it's from below up. So when a limited being did something good, he acquired himself zchut, merits, or the opposite. But it doesn't really bother the Ein Sof, because our actions are insignificant in comparison to the Creator, to the infinite of Hashem, to the Bli Gvul. We are limited. How can our actions have any kind of response from above? But through the vessels, that they are the intermediary, they are limiting the meritorious acts, or, God forbid, the opposite. They are being elevated to Ein Sof that is vested in a vessel. Right? We said the Ein Sof is vesting itself in a kli, either chesed or gevurah, whatever it is. The Ein Sof is vesting itself into a limiting vessel. Our actions are being elevated into that limiting vessel as well. Why? Because Hashem chose to limit Himself and to be involved with what's happening in creation, to know, to be aware, or to find interest in what is happening in this world or with created beings. וזאת כיוון שמצד אחד הכלים מוגבלים. מצד אחד we have, from one aspect, we have a limited vessels. And therefore, we have some kind of relations with these vessels, because we are limited and the vessels are limited. But on the other hand, within these vessels there is Ein Sof, which is not limited. And therefore, כאשר ענייני הנבראים נוגעים בכלים, when our matters, the things that we do in this world, they are reaching the vessels, and nugim meaning that they make a difference, it starts to bring an interest, שמעצם גדרם ומהותם כלים מגבילים, from their essence they are limiting vessels, מעשה הנבראים תופס מקום אצלם. Since the vessels, their job is to limit, and they are limited, and they are defining exactly what it is, like the klei chesed, the vessels of chesed, are limiting everything that goes from Hashem to be chesed. So what we do is significant to them. Why? Because we are limited also, and our actions are limited. על ידי זה הם נוגעים גם באור המלובש בהם. But since we are able to tap into these vessels, then the light that is vested in them is also getting involved. Meaning the Ein Sof itself, the extension of the Ein Sof that is vested in the vessel, are aware of what's happening. Not only aware, it starts to bother or create happiness, or the other way, or God forbid the opposite. שמצד עצמו אין לו שייכות לזה, אבל הכלי גורם שגם באור תהיה תפיסת מקום של מעשה התחתונים. So by itself the light, it doesn't make a difference what you do, how you did it, when you did it. But on the other hand, because the light is vested in the vessel, it's like let's try to give an example. If someone the time was probably 6:43, I think, was the time. 36, okay. So we got 6 minutes. Anyway, so like you can say, a lot of things in the world, they don't bother you. Why? Because they don't come, either they are not directly related to you, or they didn't come to your attention, But if someone from your family or someone close to you or a good close friend has an issue, maybe this issue is nothing to do with you, but since it's someone that is close to you, then you're starting to get involved and to be interested in how to solve the problem, how to whatever it is. So similarly over here, Ein Sof created the world through kelim, through vessels. Now, it's not that the Ein Sof itself is vested in the vessels, it's extension of Ein Sof that goes into the vessels. Now, these vessels are limiting everything that goes into them, whatever it is, it's either chesed or gevurah. Now, what we do is going back into these vessels, is ascending. And because of the Ein Sof is there, now the Ein Sof is getting involved. So we learned the pasuk Erdana Vayeira, Hashem is coming down to see what is happening with the people of Sodom. So now it's starting to make sense that he's getting bothered by what's happening with the people of Sodom. Erdana Vayeira, I'm going down to see what is happening. Ki al yedei she'adam over avera koneh lo kategor echad. A person that sins, it says in Masechet Avot, Perek Daled, that a person that sins, he acquires himself a prosecutor. For every sin, one prosecutor. נעשה פגם וכתם באותו המלאך הממונה על זה. So if someone had a chance to do a mitzvah, you had the capability, you had the time, you had everything, you were able to do a mitzvah, and you chose not to do it. Okay? So that angel, the angel that is in charge of that specific mitzvah, is now becoming blemished. Na'asa pegam, there is a blemish that is happening with him. V'ketem, and a stain, because of neglecting that mitzvah, because of the neglect of the mitzvah. כי יש מלאכים שמקבלים ממידה זו, ויש ממידה זו. כנזכר לאל בעניין מיכאל וגבריאל. So there's angels that are receiving from one type of attributes, for example, chesed, and there is Gavriel who are receiving from gevurah. ומלאך זה, and this angel that is responsible for that specific midah, for that specific attribute, מעלה הדבר למלאך הגבוה ממנו, is elevating it to an angel that is higher than him. So each angel is memune, is in charge of taking what is coming from below. Ichlu re'im ushetu dudim. What did you bring upstairs? How much Torah did you learn? How was the quality of your learning? How was the quality of your prayer? How much did you pray? It's all being elevated. So he gets to the angels that are in charge of it, and he's bringing it higher to a higher world. Same way you have a check register in the store. At the end of the day, you click enter and everything is printed out. Same thing is with our actions. ומלאך זה מעלה הדבר למלאך גבוה ממנו, עד שמתעלה בכלים ד10 ספירות למלכות והאצילות. So if it was, God forbid, someone made a blemish through his actions, so he goes to an angel that is higher than him, and the angel is passing on the blemish to an angel that is higher than him, and ultimately it reaches malchut of Atzilut, the tapuchin kadishin, this level of kingship within the world of emanation. Amitlabshim bevriya yetzira asiyah, malchut of Atzilut is the level that is vesting itself in malchut, of the world of bria, the world of creation, the world of yetzira, and ultimately in the world of Asiyah. ובתוך הכלי מלובש האור מאין סוף ברוך הוא. So within the kli, within the vessel, you have light directly from Ein Sof. כלומר, כל מצווה שייכת למידה אחרת שלמעלה ונמשכת ממנו. Every mitzvah is connected with an attribute that is higher than that attribute, but it's rooted from there. Anything that we see has a higher roots, has a higher source. like the nefesh. The nefesh has a higher source. It's called the ruach. The ruach has a higher source called the neshama. The neshama has a higher source. It's called chaya. And chaya has a higher source. It's called yechidah. So everything that we see or come in contact with, we do a mitzvah. Tefillin, mitzvah tefillin, has the source of tefillin, but it's ultimately rooted all the way in Atzilut. That's why there's many, many layers of the mitzvah that we don't understand. We know this is the will of God. So when someone, God forbid, causes a blemish, it goes all the way to the source.
But I don't understand. When you put the tefillin, you need to make shechita the cow.
Correct?
For mitzvah, you make a shechita. I don't understand this concept.
It's what you're referring to is not directly related to what we're learning, but just in short, I'll tell you that God created 4 levels, 4 elements in the world. The element of domem, which is the inanimate, it's not moving, soil. Then He created the vegetation. Then He created the animals, and then He created the medaber. There's 4 levels. Medaber is on the highest, and the animals are the chai, which is called the level of chai. The animals that they're able to walk. Vegetation is lower, and then you have the minerals, the soil. So Hashem created that the medaber is going to be fed from, what do we eat? Vegetation. We eat vegetables, we eat fruits, and we eat meat. So we, the medaber, which is on the highest level, we need the help of levels that are lower than us in order to exist, in order to sustain ourselves. Imagine someone make an argument and says, I'm the medaber, I'm on the highest level. How come I need levels that are under me? Maybe I should say to them, I'm higher than you, I don't want you. So a person is not going to be eating, not vegetables, not fruits, not grains, and he wouldn't be able to eat meat or chickens because they're lower than him. So God created the world in such a way that the medaber, us, is being fed from all these levels. Ultimately, we elevate them because they become part of us. By you eating, and afterwards learning Torah and doing mitzvot, that food becomes part of you, so you elevated the food. So when we take a cow, we shecht it, we do a mitzvah. We say, Baruch atah Hashem Elokeinu melech haolam, al mitzvat shechita, you shecht the cow. You take the meat, you eat it on Shabbat, you elevated the cow. You did a favor to the cow. Then you took... Of course. Regardless, if someone said a blessing, he elevated even more. But if someone didn't say a blessing and used the energy provided by the food to do a mitzvah, he still elevated the food. Because that food became part of you, and now you have energy to do a mitzvah, to learn Torah. So the cow that was shechted, was slaughtered, and the skin of the cow, the hide of the cow, they used it for tefillin, they did a favor to the cow, because the cow is now elevated to such a degree that the leather became holy. Before Matan Torah, it says about Avraham Avinu that he did the mitzvah of tefillin. The tefillin didn't have kedusha. They didn't have any sanctity in them. Once he put on the tefillin, it was holy. Afterwards, they take it off, it wasn't holy. So we're doing...
The skin could have been a shoe.
Right, 100%. It could have been a belt, a shoe, it could have been a hat. But luckily, the cow was elevated to this level to become a religious article, to become a tefillin. It says Baal Shem Tov taught us the concept of Hashgacha Pratit, and he says that everything that is around you, even food, if you try to think a little bit about the process that it went through, it says God created the wheat. Then the wheat was planted, they took the wheat and they grinded it, they made bread, they went through the whole process to make bread. Finally, this bread comes to the table. And it has Devar Hashem, ki lo al alechem levado yechya adam, ki al motza pi havaya. What does it mean, motza pi havaya? I mean, there is the godliness within the food that gives you life. Not the food itself gives you life, it's the godliness that is embedded in the food that gives you life. Ki al motza pi Hashem yechya adam. So this food is sitting there on the table after the whole process that you went through. Finally, it became a bread. You went to the store, you bought the bread, it's on your table, and this bread is waiting for you to say bracha. And to use the energy that the food will provide you for something good. Because that was his journey, that was the purpose that it was created for. So we're not doing an Vayeira by slaughtering an animal. We're doing a mitzvah by slaughtering the animal.
I heard that our neshamot are connected with fruits and animals.
Yes.
So when you say a bracha, you liberate these neshmot. They come again in a fruit, in a cow. So when you say a bracha, you give them freedom. Elevate. No, free, you disconnect.
But where does he go?
To their place, but not connected with the fruit.
That's right, but now he goes to an elevated.
You elevate it when you make a bracha.
Next
You
level.
elevate it.
Yeah. Every time I meet an emperor, there's no here.
ונמצא על ידי הכלים מתעלה לאור אינסוף ברוך הוא המלובש בהכלים לספירות. נמצאנו למדים מכל זה שבאמצעות הכלים, because of the vessels and through the vessels, through the כלי, הפגם הנעשה על ידי העבירה עולה ומגיע להערה מאין סוף ברוך הוא המלובשת בכלים. And ultimately the sin or the blemish is elevated to the vessel also. To the vessel, and there is a way from Ein Sof. So the Ein Sof, not only aware of it, but it bothers him. Not the Ein Sof itself, it's an extension of Ein Sof. הוא מגיע להערה מאין סוף המלובשת בהכלים של 10 ספירות, וכן הוא על ידי עשיית איזו מצווה, and similarly through doing a mitzvah, שזכות זו עולה דרך ריבוי האמצעים. That this merit is ascending through all the different אמצעים, through the different angels, עד להכלים של 10 ספירות. Ultimately it reaches the vessels of the 10 ספירות, והאור של אין סוף המלובש בהם, and the אין סוף that is vested in the 10 ספירות. וזהו, שעל ידי הכלים ד10 ספירות הוא גם כן בחילת העלאת הזכות וחוב של כל נברא. Meritorious acts. And, God forbid the opposite, everything is elevated to the vessels. עד לאור המלובש בכלים, ultimately it reaches the light that is in there. ועל פי זה יתרץ הסתירה המבואה לאל. Now we can understand the seeming contradiction that we mentioned before. Because we said, one time we said, Galui ve'adu. The philosophers wanted to know how is it possible for God to be involved with all the tiny details that are happening in the world. And they came to the conclusion that it's not possible. And therefore, Azav Hashem et haaretz, Hashem is not involved with us, with the little things. And He has intermediaries the same way that the president of a company hires a CEO, and the CEO hires a vice president and helpers, and as CFO, he's not involved with all the little details. And finally, there's a janitor that cleans the place, and someone that picks up the garbage. He's not involved with all the details. So the philosopher says also, Azav Hashem et haaretz. Hashem forsaken this place. It's too lowly for him. Such a lofty entity, and therefore he forsaken it. And the rabbi said, in one word, Galui ve'adu. 2 words, Galui ve'adu. They answered the whole thing. For Hashem, everything is revealed and known because of Yediat Atzmo. It's not an added knowledge. That is, he has to have 1,000 terabytes to remember all this information. It's all added. It's not added by him, it's all known to him. It's part of him. So he's aware of everything that is happening. But now we're learning, why would he even respond to anything that happens? We learned that the meritorious acts are ascending, and the opposite is ascending also, the negative things. Why would he care for it if he's so much higher than that? Seemingly it's insignificant to him. He is infinite and we are finite. Why the things that we do makes a difference to him? ועל פי זה יתרץ הסתירה המובאת לעיל בין העניין גלוי וידוע לעניין ואינם משוטטות. גלוי וידוע tells me Hashem doesn't have to be involved to know everything that happens. He already knows it. Everything that will happen is known to him. Everything that happened is known to him. And the present is known to him. It's all one for him. And on the other hand, we have the statement of Zechariah that says, Einav mishotetot, that the eyes of God are always mishotetot, they're always looking around, collecting information. כפי ששאל שגלוי וידוע, משמע שאין הקדוש ברוך הוא זקוק להתלבשות ותפיסה כדי לדעת את העולם. When you say גלוי וידוע, means Hashem is not, it doesn't have to be vested in the world to know what is happening. אלא הכל הוא בדרך ממילא. Everything is known to him by default. The same way that you know what happens with your toes, and you know what happens with your nails. If you have an ingrown nail, it hurts you. Even though you have billions of other nerves in your nerve system in your body, but you're aware of the little things that are happening because it's you. That's why you're aware of it. Similarly, God, since the whole creation is Him, everything that happens in creation He is aware of. And anything that will happen in creation He is aware of. והכל הוא בדרך ממילא. ואילו מה שכתוב עיניו משוטטות, but on the other hand, Zechariah tells us his eyes are looking around. Why does he have to look? משמע שעליו לרדת אל הדבר שרוצה לדעת ולעיין בו. Meaning that he needs to come down to it, to look at it. Like the Torah says, ארדנה ואראה, I'm coming down to see what is happening. כדי לדעת אותו, in order to know it, עניין של תפיסת והתלבשות. Concept of grasping it and being vested in it. ולכן נאמר על זה אינם משוטטות שהוא בחינת הכלים ד10 ספירות. Says, comes to the statement of Zechariah, אינם משוטטות, it's speaking about the kelim, the vessels of the 10 ספירות. רק בהכלים של 10 ספירות שייך עניין אינם משוטטות. Only in the vessels of the kelim, the vessels, the concept of אינם משוטטות applies, or applies to. כלומר, בחינת המשכה והתלבשות בדבר הנראה והנודע, וממילא התפעלות ממנו. There is התלבשות, there is vestment. ממילא התפעלות ממנו. So therefore, if I'm vesting myself into this subject, I'm now have התפעלות, now I have excitement. Now I'm being awakened, I'm being aroused by it. כי הכלים הם בגדר הגבול. Vessels are גבול, are limitations. ושייך בהם להיות נתפס בדבר מה. And therefore, שייך, it's possible to be grasping it, it's limiting it. בניגוד לאור אין סוף ברוך הוא שכשמו כן הוא. Contrary to אין סוף, כשמו כן הוא, the way his name is, it represents infinitude, שאין לו סוף וגבול ואין לו שום ערך ויחס. וגם המלאכים המקבלים מהם נקראים מראה דעינין, ויש מראה דעודנין. There's two types of angels. There's one type of angels called בעלי העיניים, those who have eyes. According to the Kabbalistic teachings, they're receiving their flow from the 10 ספירות of חסד, כי הם מקבלים את השפעתם מ10 הספירות. מיכאל מכלי החסד, גבריאל מגבורה. Michael is receiving from the vessels of Chesed, Gabriel is receiving from the vessels of Gevura, והם במדרגה נמוכה יותר מהן, ולכן שייך בהם עניין התפיסה והתלבשות, ועליהם ניתן לומר אינם משוטטות, על דרך עניין ראיית העין שנתפס ומלובש בדבר שרואה. So it tells us that the angels that are called Marei Deinin, those that are possessing eyes, according to the Sod, they're receiving their flow from 10 Sefirot. And because of that they are on a lower level, they have to vest themselves in the subject or the object to know what is happening. והם משוטטים בכל הארץ, and they are strolling around. כמאמר דמה למעלה ממך, you should know what is above you. עין רואה, the eye sees, the ear hears. What is the meaning of it? The eye has the ability to see. It says in Ethics of the Fathers, Dama lemala mimcha, you should know what is above you. Ain roa, there's an eye that sees. An ozen shomat, an ear that hears everything that happens. The deeper meaning of it is that it's referring to the angels. These angels that are called Einaim, Mare Deinin, those that are watching. You should know that they are above you. Lemala me'adam, they are higher than the person in the spiritual world, and they see and hear the actions of men, and they are elevating them on high. They are bringing them on high. The way they're bringing it to, they're bringing it to the 10 vessels of Atzilus, of the world of emanation, and ultimately to the light of Ein Sof that is vested in the vessels. We'll continue tomorrow.